Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Macro Lounge podcast. I am, of course, your co-host, Chris Bold, joined by the queen of all sparkles, Rachel Mead. How are you today, Rachel? Other than buried up to your nostrils in rhinestones and sparkles?
Sleepy. Didn't sleep well recently, but that's okay. We get in there. We're doing a lot of rhinestoning at the moment. I did a big sewing week last week. This week is my rhinestoning week. I still have some sewing to do though, but I've got about 8 boxes sitting next to me, ready to be sent out for my lovely ladies.
Excellent. So we'll be expecting lots of unveiling, or in black and white anyway, unveiling, videos.
I would like to. Like, a lot of people haven't been doing it, and I've been very sad because everyone is tagging everyone but their suit maker. Like, regardless of if it's me or not, everyone tags their makeup artist and their tanner, and nobody tags their suit maker. It's very sad. I feel very left out.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I think that should be against the rules. In fact, it should be something like immediately the box opens, it should just be like a jack in the box and say, tag me, or something along those lines. It would be good.
Maybe I need to do that. Maybe I need to have a sticker saying, like, post. But I do love seeing the unveiling videos. They make my day. They actually make my day. Record yourself unboxing, please.
I know. It's quite an exciting. It's like watching, 5-year-old, go to the Christmas tree or some of those things, and they're like, ah, and then it goes black and white. I'm like, you tease, that's just not fair. I was looking.
Or like they just hide it behind the back of the box.
Yeah, you're like, messing with me. So, but what else did we have going on? Well, we had the Tauranga posing workshop this weekend. That was good. We had a guest appearance by the lovely
We
Honey.
did.
So she was the star of the show.
She really was. Stage presence was just good. Off the charts.
Yeah. Had the walk, kept the glutes high as she trotted off to the back.
Just commanded attention. Yeah.
We should actually clarify that Honey was a puppy, just in case people were wondering. So, but no, it was real good. It was actually good to be able to have the ability to work a little bit more one-on-one. I think everybody at that workshop, it wasn't the biggest one we've done, but that wasn't the point. I did like everybody's reaction when we pulled the blinds down over the mirrors, and they all looked like we just committed some fatal sin. They were like, what? We can't see the mirrors. We're like, well, you can't see them on stage.
With one exception, there was one time that there was these lovely big glass windows at the back of the room for, I think it was ICN Nationals 2024. It was great, so you could see everyone's reflections. So you could kind of see what was happening. That was awesome.
I imagine that would be quite good for first. It would make them feel, very comfortable. It's like, it's just like practicing at home.
If you go overseas and they have the big screens, when you turn around for the back shot, you can actually see what they're showing on the live stream. It's great because you can just adjust your posing accordingly.
That's a good point. A little expensive though for New Zealand to put the LCD.
It is. But that's why I said if it's overseas. But yes, most of the time you will not be able to see yourself. So yeah, that was quite funny. But it was very nice actually having smaller numbers because it just it was easier to just go around and talk to each individual person.
Yeah, it was good. And because we had people, some people they didn't even know they barely even knew which federation they were competing in. It was quite interesting. But it was like, you got that wrong.
Hey, Chris, we welcome everyone. There was no judgment. You're sounding a little bit judgy there.
No. I just thought it was funny that she didn't actually know. I thought it was interesting that she wasn't actually aware of what federation she was doing, which was quite funny. I was like, okay, so what posing would you like to cover today? She's like, there's a difference. We're like, yes, there is a difference between the posing. But that was good. It was good to see, different. And we even had one male competitor there, which was...
We did.
I did pick on him a little bit, but I had permission from his girlfriend, so that was okay.
To be fair, I think he got very lucky. He basically got almost an hour of one-on-one posing time with you.
That's true. Yeah, very fair of an invoice.
He should, because $20 for that. What a steal.
Pretty cheap. What else have we? I survived the 6-kilometre mud run on Sunday.
Yes, I was going to ask you how that went.
I'm not built for running. I'm gonna put that out there. It took me back to the nightmares of doing cross country when I was at intermediate school. Didn't like it then. Don't like it now. But I did survive, and I did run the whole way too, so that was good. So it was, and it was a little wet. It was called a mud run for a reason, so I probably shouldn't have been hugely surprised by that.
Yeah, no, I don't know what you were thinking when you signed up to that, to be honest.
To be fair, at 6 o'clock in the morning when I woke up and it was absolutely bucketing down with rain, and I was like, could I just pull a sickie? Then I thought, No, I'm actually driving the minibus with 12 other people, so I'm probably not going to get away with that. So it was funny though, because I made sure I was the moral support crew for one of the girls, Dion, as we were running along. 'Cause not a big runner as our Dion, but all I could hear as we were crawling through these tunnels, they had these big PVC tunnels with mud in the middle, and you have to do this like military style crawl through to get to them, and all I could hear is Dion apologising to her nails as we're going through. He's like, "I'm so sorry, Mummy, I'll take you straight to the salon when we're finished," and I'm just cracking up laughing as I get out. And I was like, "Who the hell were you talking to through there?" And she's like got her hands up like this, and I was like, she's running like a surgeon. I was cracking up laughing. I was like,
To be fair, getting mud under your nails is not a fun experience.
yeah, well, I don't really have that problem. So, but yes, we did survive, and everybody was saying, right, we should do this again. And I was like, yep, we did it last time 3 years ago. I think that's a good, gap in time. So I think it's about right. Every 3 years seems to be okay.
Because it's just long enough that you've forgotten how miserable it was.
Yeah.
And you think it's a good idea again.
Yeah. And it'll take about that long before you go, yeah, sure, let's do that again. Maybe not. We'll just see how it goes. But anyway, and we're getting to the thick end of the business season down here in New Zealand for the competing. Next up, we have got the ICN South Island Classic in Christchurch. That's what?
That'll be a week out.
Weekend, but the following week. Yeah.
Well, by the time this podcast comes out, it'll be like peak week, I think.
Yeah, it'll be exciting. Been a big week overseas. Lots of Kiwis competing as well. You had Sean and Lily in, I want to say, Atlanta.
I think so.
Definitely in the States. We'll get that part right. We got the continent right. And I know it was Sean's last competition. She, hanging up the heels. I think that's a really brave, and we should commend her for making that decision, going out on her own terms. She's been pushing this for years, and I think it was a real good showing for her. Her and Lily were competing in the same show, so that was cool. And then you had Denver and
Jess. Yes, I think so.
We'll just stick with the American, ladies and gentlemen. Which was
probably should have written this down beforehand.
That would involve us being prepared. I mean, we like to keep things off the cuff here at the Macro Lounge, and it gives us a more organic feel. It's
maybe.
Neither of us did our homework when we were at school. We subbed. Who else was competing? And then Jasmine Lawrence was up this weekend. She was at the Atlanta Pro as well. Was it Atlanta Pro?
You're asking the wrong person.
Yeah, it was Atlanta Pro. Top 6 in wellness, which is a good showing for her. And I think she's got another show coming up next week, so we'll see how she goes there. But yeah, locally now we're starting to get into the thick end, and which means that poor old Rachel is now buried in all things rhinestone and sewing.
I am.
So probably having nightmares about that, so which is fun. Yeah. But I did enjoy seeing all your nice new sparkly stones that arrived last weekend. That was really impressive.
The little reveal. I love opening up new colours.
Which is really interesting because you're showing them to me like, yeah, look at this, and I'm going, Rachel, yeah, that looks like a stone. Yep, colour. Yeah. She's like, look, you can see how the light reflects through this, and I'm like going, mm-hmm. Especially when we were looking at the green on the velvet, and I had to pretend I knew what you were talking about. Oh, by the way, my mission today is to not curse because I got called a potty mouth this week after last week, so I'm going to attempt to keep the. I think she keeps track of the number of swear words I use. I think that's probably what the case is. So I did blame you, though. I did say that you were.
Why me?
Bad example. Well, I blame somebody.
But why me? How did I get blamed?
Well, I think it's your job to, because you're supposed to rein me in. You're supposed to be in charge of that sort of stuff.
No, I do the opposite.
I thought you were the responsible adult in the room. Misinformed yet again.
Nope, not even close. I'm the one that gets you into trouble, remember?
Yeah, that is true. Mm-hmm. Yep, thanks for that.
So anyway, what are we supposed to be talking about, Chris, today? Because I was unaware of any type of topic until about 10 minutes ago.
That sounds like a you problem. Today we're going to talk about pretty much when did a pro card become the only success story in competitive bodybuilding? So it's a pretty simple question. When did that become the ultimate goal? Because I don't remember back in my day when anybody really talked about the pro status. It was, back then, people talked about winning their overall or winning winning their class, or it was about representing the country, like going to the Worlds, or for a lot of people, it was simply getting on stage. Now that whole conversation whether it's by athletes or officials or whatever, there's that whole thing about when are you turning pro? So that's kind of what has sort of been weighing on my mind, like seeing what shows are coming up. Have we accidentally defined success as bodybuilding in too narrow a format? So has the sport become too obsessed with one thing?
I think so. I mean, like, even when I first started, which was 2019, like winning your pro card, that was a huge part of the discussion. So it's been at least 7 years of like, so I don't know when it started. I'm not quite sure. Chris, do you know when that became the main topic of conversation? Because it definitely was in 2019.
I think it really became much more prevalent around the time of the split between the IFBB and the IFBB Pro League. So around, what was that, 2017, thereabouts, 2016, 2017? So yeah, like this isn't I'm not trying to do an attack on pro cards or an attack on any federations. I think it's just a fact that I think earning a pro card is one of the greatest achievements in bodybuilding you can do. But the question is, when did it become the only achievement that we seem to celebrate? Because I don't think that's healthy for the athletes, and I don't really think it's healthy for the sport.
Yeah, well, I mean, because you talk to most competitors, especially if, like, first timers not so much, but if they've been around at least a year or two, usually they're like, well, yeah, I'd like to get my pro card. That's basically the goal. It's not usually to win a show or, I don't know, sometimes, I mean, obviously win overall at nationals, but then that results in said pro card. So a lot of the time that becomes the end goal. And then what happens next is that's where things get a little bit dicey, because now you're pro and you can no longer really compete in New Zealand very much for most.
Yeah. So who do you think decided that was the goal? Because I think, like as you said, everybody's talking about when they get their pro card, but is it everybody? Because like if you were to go backstage, like let's say, for example, let's say next week at ICN South Island, if we were to walk backstage and to ask, let's say, anybody outside of potentially the open class, right? If we were to ask them, their first time competitors or their juniors or whatever like that, why they're competing, how many of those people are going to say because they want to get a pro card? Is it going to be, are they really talking about that pro
Maybe
card?
I've been around too long.
Yeah. I mean, it could be.
I mean, the ones who have been around for a little while, the one is what I mean. Like, if you're a first time or even a second timer, usually it's not as much part of the discussion. But I think by the time you get to your third season, that's generally kind of the discussion, I'd say.
So you reckon it's I was going to ask, at what point along the journey does the narrative change from I wanted to tick it off a bucket list, or I'm doing it to gain confidence? A lot of it's like, I remember back in the day, they used to say, and ladies and gentlemen, from Tauranga, Rachel Mee trains out of Flex Fitness Mount Maunganui. Rachel has lost 16 kilos on her journey to stage. And everybody goes, hey! And now it's like, and Rachel's coming for a pro card. So at what point does that narrative change? As you said, is it around that 3-year mark, or
I mean, it also depends on the athlete.
Yeah,
depends on the athlete.
Is it I mean, let's face facts. Not everybody wants to go pro.
Yes.
Not everybody should go pro. But is the narrative, who's driving the narrative? Like, did the athlete choose his goal, or have we created this culture within the sport of competitive bodybuilding? And I personally, I think it's social media influencing, really. Did we create this culture about pro code?
Well, I think part of it is that social media has created this, I guess, sense of if you are a pro, you are important. It's created this, okay, so as soon as you get your pro card, you are now qualified to become a prep coach and a posing coach.
Yeah.
That's the perception around it. That's the perception. Yeah. And yeah, it's almost like a false qualification that you know what you're talking about. Like, I don't know. Yeah. It's like doing a qualification. It's like saying I have my bachelor's in. It's the bodybuilding equivalent.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the marketing for some of these shows, these pro qualifying shows, and they say, this many, pro cards won. It's like there's a show coming up in Europe that's got 140 pro cards, and you're like, crazy. What the I remember back in my day, I was listening to actually Lee Haney and Chris Cormier on the old bodybuilders as I was driving into Tauranga. Actually, it was quite interesting. But they were talking about like when they won their pro card, there were like 3 pro cards in the world. And they were all in bodybuilding because there was only, that was it. You were either a male bodybuilder or a female bodybuilder. But, now you're looking at these shows saying they're billing them as X number of pro cards can be won. They're billing them, when they announce the awards that, this person won their pro card, that person won their pro card. When did the narrative change around being competitive and, winning a regional show, winning nationals, to who's driving the narrative? Is it the coaches? Is it the athletes? Is it social media? To say that this pro status is the only thing that counts in bodybuilding. Because I don't think the athletes have changed. There's still athletes that, they know they're not that elite world level, right? They can be pretty good and they can be the best they can be and still show up and somebody can smoke them. But I don't think the athletes have changed. I think the conversation around that pro thing has changed. I mean, you and I have joked how many times that people actually have that Instagram status updated, like as they're walking off the stage down the steps. Yeah. Blah, 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 blah. X Federation Pro. You're like, did you even make it off stage before you updated that? Did you have it timed? I mean, I don't know. So the conversation seems to be changing. I mean, coaches do it too, X Pro cards won, all this sort of stuff. It's like, I don't know. At what point, as you said, is it 3 years?
It's a marketing thing because, obviously coaches can use it. Like I say, it's like a qualification. Coaches can use it to say, okay, this is what's the word? Like a tangible result. So it's the same with even competitors because it's like it's a tangible thing that you can basically say I'm qualified. But then I don't know. It's hard because there's not really any reason for it not to become a marketing scheme, I guess. Like, I can't see any downside to it being marketed that way. Like, there's that, which is why it's become so prevalent, because there's literally no downsides to marketing it as this prestigious qualification. I am now elite. What is the downside? There isn't one.
No, that's true. I mean, okay, well, what does professional actually mean? What does it mean in the world of bodybuilding versus what does it mean in other sports?
Well, I mean,
so
that's the interesting thing, because in other sports, you don't have a pro card, or you don't really become an official pro at any point. Basically, I mean, I think the general rule is you can earn money, isn't it?
Probably, I would say the only golf, probably, where in tennis, where you have to sort of, I mean, I guess tennis, you just say I'm a pro. Golf, I think you have to earn your ability to pay and play in the pro
you have to get a handicap, and it has to be a certain handicap. But again, that's I mean, most of the time it's you qualify for a specific event in some way, but again, you're not granted this big pro status.
So is pro status, is it just another trophy? Is it just you get your medal or you get is it just a shinier version of the overall title? It's like, you win a medal and you get either silver, gold, silver, or bronze. And then you get your shiny little trophy for winning the overall. And then you get your pro card and they give you a 3x2 laminated piece of plastic. Here's your pro card. And give us $250 US for your registration fee.
Yes. Well, I mean, exactly. That's what I mean. There's no downside, because the IFBB obviously, or actually every federation obviously wants you to maintain your pro status, because they get money out of it regardless of whether you compete. If you take a off season, or if you even never plan to compete again, to keep your pro status, you must continue paying that registration fee. So they're basically giving you telling you to sign up for a lifelong subscription of something that you possibly are never going to use.
It's like belonging to a private golf club, really, isn't it? And like, once you've got your membership, you can't really give it up because you'll never be allowed back. So keep playing. But so, what does earning a pro card do? Does it make you famous? Does it pay your bills?
Nope.
Does it give you sponsorship opportunities?
Oh, but it might make you more credible for sponsorship. Maybe you can.
Maybe.
Again, it's marketing. It's saying that you've got a title. It's like saying I have a PhD, or I have a doctorate, or I'm a sir, lady, whatever. It's a title, is all it is. It's just a name that we've given people to say that they are special, basically.
So would you say the athletes are chasing a title, or are they chasing what they think comes with the title?
Both. Because I think there's a lot of people who, when they start bodybuilding, they kind of think, I actually quite enjoy this. Maybe I want to do this as a living. And a lot of them end up actually going into prep coaching or PTing or any type of coaching. A lot of them do. It's very common. It's because they enjoy it. And now they're like, well, how do I earn money from it? So, I mean, I can't blame them for that. But again, at the same time, it doesn't mean they should. Because just because you have a pro card doesn't mean that you actually know how people's bodies work.
No, there is a fair amount of that out there. I mean, the reality is not all professional pathways are the same, right? So not talking about ranking federations or anything like that, but every federation, they have a different ecosystem. They have different numbers of pro shows, there's different international opportunities, there's different levels of prize money. Probably most importantly, there's different depths of competition across various different pro divisions. Nobody can argue that the IFBB Pro League has the largest depth of competition and the highest level of elite athletes. They've been around the longest. They've got the biggest marketing clout. They've got the biggest money. I mean, as long as they still own the Olympia, I mean, they're pretty much top of the food chain. I think from the amateur level, it gets a little bit more muddied when you have the natural federations, the drug tested federations. There's a different depth of competition. We talked briefly about it last week, like the IFBB Pro League natural pros. As far as I understand, they cannot compete in the open pro division.
I'm fairly sure they can.
Yeah, actually, I thought they could, but I was reading something recently that basically once you go pro to the natural, you're a natural pro. And there is a delineation between that. Oddly, there are more natural pro shows in the IFBB than I first thought. Over the next coming year, there's actually 26 pro shows. The idea is they're leading into their version of the Olympia is the Ben Weider Championship.
I'm looking this up.
Yeah, I looked it up before. There's 20. I think that in the next calendar year for next year's Pro Ben Weider Cup, there's 26 individual pro shows. Not all of those pro shows have all of the federations. Divisions. Of that 26, around about 21 of them have the divisions we care about, which are the Freckles ones. But again, not all of them. But from the men's bodybuilding divisions and like the more muscular classes for the female classes, there's a lot less opportunities to compete. So it's not the same as competing in the IFBB Pro League, where they've got 500 plus opportunities. But if you look at all of those pro shows that are in the naturals, majority of them are where? In the US.
In the States.
Yeah. And they don't have the prize money and they don't have the exposure. They're certainly not marketed. So in every federation has a different level of exposure for their natural pros. So the progression of where they can go, what the international opportunities are. We were just talking about earlier, Rach, about international competitors coming to do the ICN Pro Show at the end of September. It's, what are the federations doing right across the spectrum of the alphabet to bring international athletes in to compete at a pro level? And I think that goes back to the question about when people are chasing their pro card is what happens after you've earned your pro card? Where do you compete? Who are you competing against? And really, can you actually afford what that pathway is?
This is true because it gets very expensive. I'm actually just looking at the rules, Chris. I think what you're looking at is if you're doing a natural regional show, you don't qualify for the open pro qualifier, and vice versa. I'm looking at it. It does look like if you get a natural pro card, you are a IFBB pro.
I was just listening to Tony Doherty from Australia, and he was talking about. He's like, I actually don't know. He didn't think so, but he was going to check. So it'd be interesting. But the question is, if you are a natural pro, why the hell would you go and compete against an enhanced pro? Because let's be realistic, they are a different look. It's not saying that one's better than the other, but it comes back to what we were talking about previously. It's like enhanced versus natural. They're scored differently. It's different categories. It's not just one's bigger than the other. You put an enhanced athlete on a natural lineup, and they're going to just look weird. I mean, it'd be like putting Nick Walker up at the Yorton Cup with the OCB, and it's going to be like walkers like this, and everybody else is going to be like this.
Yes.
They're rewarded differently, so I think they should stay differently. So I think probably the question a lot of people ask themselves when they're chasing this pro status is, the better question isn't how do I become a pro? It's what happens after I've become one.
This is true because, again, like, there's not that many pro shows around the side of the world. So even for me, like, I mean, there is one pro show in New Zealand this year. Sometimes there's not for ICN, but again, you now can't do all the shows. It changes the game quite a lot because now I don't go to a qualifying show, so I don't have a warm-up show or anything. I would just go straight into my pro show. And so the whole strategy around competing does also change. And then a lot of the time you're wanting to compete overseas to get, like, I guess, what's it, deeper competition, see where you stack. And also there's just more pro shows overseas. So for me, the best place to compete would probably be Australia. Because that's where the most ICN pro shows are. For IFBB, you would go to the US. Anywhere else, like, you can be strategic with it because they reward different things. But anywhere else, like, if your goal is to move up the pro ranks, if you're an IFBB, you need to go to the US.
Even the European, I mean, there's a reasonable number of IFBB pro shows in Europe, but if they want to move up the ranks and be considered in the elite show, which is the Olympia, which again we talked about earlier about the qualification system and the number of athletes that are there, they have to go to the US. It's almost like unless you're in the US and seen, then you're not going to be rewarded. But it's interesting, as you said, where are the pro shows in the IFBB? Tony in Australia hasn't done a pro show, I think, since the last one was pre-COVID. When was COVID?
2018,
2019?
Yeah.
I think 2018 Arnold was the last pro show that they did in Australia. He has said that they will do one in 2027. He just doesn't know where and he doesn't know when. And he made a very valid point. Pro shows are expensive. I take my hat off to Mo and the team at the NZIFBB for putting on pro shows for the New Zealand athletes. And they are international shows and people can come to them. But the reality of it is, it's real expensive by the time you pay the sanction fees. And if you do it and I thought Tony raised a really good point, if you add it on to an amateur show that's already got, I don't know, let's say 100 plus athletes plus crossovers, so you've got 300 people on stage, right, backwards and forwards, that's run for 6 hours. And then you throw a pro show in the end there, and that takes another 3 hours. It's like you've got to sell more tickets to cover the pro costs of the sanction fees.
And also prize money.
Yeah. And the reality of it is, it's horrible, but people don't come to watch the pros. They'll go to the Olympia. They'll go to the Arnolds. But I remember one year when they used to have the New Zealand Pro-Am in March, we had 4 out of the top 5 from the Bikini Olympia. And then one year, I think they had 4 out of the top 6 from the Open Olympia on stage. And when the pros came out, I remember turning around from the judges' table and the audience was gone. And it was like, so, to cover that expense, that sanction fees, the prize money, and there's a minimum prize pool they have to put up. Outside of the Olympia, the prize money is a joke. It's real expensive. So you can see why there are fewer opportunities and why, and I think it comes to my next point about, bodybuilding's created this hierarchy, whether it's unintentional and has that hierarchy been created that most competitors never actually wanted. But the reality is there are a truckload more amateur athletes than there are professionals. I mean, we joke about the number of professional cards federations are giving out there. It's like, you have a pro card, and you have a pro card, and you have a pro card. I won't name the federation in New Zealand, but it pretty much seemed like they were doing that recently.
I mean, to be fair, there should be more amateurs than pros. There should be.
Yeah.
There should be astronomically more amateurs than pros. Otherwise, it's no longer prestigious. There's no point to it.
Yeah.
But yes, no, like you say, like it is, and because for a pro show, generally, you want it to have a good production value. Like watching some of the girls competing over in the States recently, I would have been pissed if I was them because even for a pro show, they got told to cut their routines short.
Yeah.
And I'm
and invariably, the pro shows are on the same stage as the amateurs. There's not a lot of pro shows that are exclusively pros. It's the same stage. It's the same judges. So, the reality of it is, yes, there should be more amateurs than there are pros. And the reality is there would be no pro division in any of the federations if they didn't have a healthy amateur division. Because
the amateurs pay for the pros.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with amateurs becoming pros. And that's where I think the hierarchy's been created. And that's where I think it's wrong. it's like, if you're not a pro, you're not a bodybuilder. We've heard that said in New Zealand, which is like you almost want to slap the guy. I won't name it. But it's the amateurs that support the shows and support the promoters. And the reality of it is, it's without the amateurs, coaches don't have a job. Gyms don't have membership. There is no community. The reality is the amateurs are the backbone of bodybuilding. So again, to go back to that hierarchy question, have we unintentionally started treating the amateur competition as simply a waiting room for?
Well, like, it's just, I guess, the first step in the ladder is what it's kind of considered as at this point. Like, otherwise, yeah, like you say, you're not considered a real bodybuilder, and you can't call yourself bodybuilder kind of situation. Like, I mean, it's all about perception, and again, marketing comes back to marketing. And then if you have the amateurs coming back for more, they have a goal that they really want to achieve, and they keep coming back year after year to achieve that goal. It's more money.
But how many of those amateurs that are coming back year after year are really the ones that are gunning for the pro card? I mean, do we still have people that have long amateur careers?
I feel like we've lost that.
Competing.
The past few years, we have started moving away from that. I definitely think up until 2023, maybe, we definitely had your long-standing people who were at the top. They've done their time. They're gunning for that pro card. Now, I feel like not so much. I'm not sure if
Do you think there's now an element of, if you don't go pro, like let's say the higher level, all right, the elite level athletes, because there is a difference. You've got amateurs, even amateurs, there's different levels, and you can see that in the pro shows. I mean, like even the ones that have just been recently, the ones that are in the top 10, or you've got top 5, they're at a certain level, and you've got 6 through 10 are at a different level, and then pretty much from 10 onwards, it's kind of like, who are you and why are you here? But has it become that way in the amateurs now, that when there isn't a long amateur career, there aren't people going and winning multiple world titles or coming back and defending their national title, so basically, if these good athletes that potentially have that ability to develop into a pro, we talked recently, Rachel, remember saying about now a bikini level body is 5 years in development, right? As opposed to 6 months.
More than that. It's coming up 10 years these days. Like, I think it was 5 years when I first started.
Yeah. So if you don't win your pro card within shorter than 5 years, I don't remember really many amateurs out there that have been competing for 5 years. I mean, I could rattle off a few. I don't want people running up. I've been competing since. I'm like, yes, I know, and I probably know most of them. But is it now that if you don't get that pro card in that, I don't know, 2-3 years, are people now going, nah, I'm done with competing? And is that because we've created this hierarchy that it is all about the pros? You've got those good athletes that, who, yes, they're continuing to excel, they're continuing to grow, they're continuing to develop. But if they lost the love for competing, and has it now become, have they somehow unfinished if they don't become a pro? At what point have they stopped going, this is about being the best that I can be, this is about, continuing to develop, continuing to grow? When have we now created this level of exclusivity where we're only looking at that top 1%? And let's be realistic, out of all the athletes in New Zealand, there are not really many left. And that's no disrespect to them.
We've got a divide now. I think you've got 2 types of amateurs at this point in most cases. Like, obviously, there's a few in between in the grey area, but I think you've got the ones who are there to just get on stage, have a great time. They want to see the improvements. They just enjoy improving show to show. And then you've got the ones who are trying to get their pro card. And, I mean, obviously, there's a few in the middle, but I think that divide is kind of getting wider and wider. And it is getting very...
Why do you think that is?
I think partially because of the culture we've created, which actually, Chris, we don't help this, to be honest. We have said this ourselves, that the regional shows are not the target. Nationals is the target. So, like you say, I think you touched on a really good point there, that you're not trying to defend your title anymore. You want to win nationals overall, which at that point you become a pro and then you can't do it anymore again anyway. So there's no defending your title unless the federation doesn't give you a pro card.
Well, no, there is also, remember, you don't have to take the pro card.
You don't, but I do also think it's often considered a bit of a dick move if you don't.
Yeah, I can only think of, since I came back to New Zealand and was judging in New Zealand, In my entire time, I can only think of one time, no, two times, 2011 and 2018, when the overall Mr. New Zealand declined his pro card.
There was one, I swear, she came back the next year and got it. There was a girl. I think it was in like figure or physique or something. Can't remember. But like, I mean, if it's that there's not many numbers and you didn't feel you deserved it and you felt that, yeah, the numbers weren't there, the standard wasn't there, you didn't deserve it, that is fair enough. But I think in some of the bigger divisions where the competition is a bit steeper, if you don't take it, it's kind of considered a bit of a dick move because you've stopped someone else from getting their pro card who might want to go into the pro league.
Yeah, there was interesting. There was last year, there was a guy who had won his pro card in a competition in Europe. And then he went over and he did, this was in classic physique, and he did I believe it was the Thailand and pro qualifier. And he won that one. And there's a bunch of negative stuff online that he had taken the placing that was rightfully deserved by somebody else because he was already a pro. And the reality is you are not a pro until you sign the contract. You can stay an amateur. But yeah, as you said, people viewed that as a dick move and said, why was he competing against amateurs? He's a pro. It's like, well, no, he didn't actually want to be a pro. He just loved competing. But yeah, he got slammed.
Yeah, I mean, I can see both sides of the argument. I think it kind of depends on the situation. If you're like there is definitely a way to do it there that it would be a little bit malicious. That like he could continue just competing forever and just no one ever gets pro card again.
Yeah.
So like that at that point, it's a bit of a dick move. But if it's like you genuinely didn't feel that you deserved it or that you just didn't want to move into the pro league genuinely, it's not that you're actually trying to stop people from getting through. Like, I mean, at that point, just be better than that person.
I used to frequently say I would rather be a really good quality amateur than a shit pro.
I mean, you go pro and you're at the bottom of the food chain.
Yeah.
You go straight to the bottom and then it's like, now what?
Well, I think that's one of the hardest truths about turning pro, and most people don't. For many athletes, and we were just talking about this before, the day they win their pro card will probably be the last time they ever win a show.
Yeah. And so I think it's very overrated to get your pro card on your first season. Because I know a lot of athletes are like, yeah, I want to win my pro card by first season. Like it's the famous story that we tell. There's a couple of them out there. It's getting very rare these days. But everyone wants to win their pro card as fast as possible. I'm like, why? Do the time as an amateur, enjoy it, have fun at the shows, enjoy placing well because there's also no pressure. Like,
if you we're talking about the majority of the athletes there, though, like the reality is the majority of people that compete in the regional and national shows,
I think the ones that are trying to
never be pro.
That's true, but I think the ones that are gunning for the pro card, the ones that are mentally competitive.
Much emphasis on that.
Yes.
And we'd be guilty of that in this former little media world that whatever we're doing. I mean, we are putting a huge emphasis on this person is the next one to watch and all that sort of crap. But I mean, as you said before, the reality is when you win your pro card, you are the best of the best, right? You are the top amateur. And then Monday morning you wake up and you are the bottom of the professional lineup. It's literally, you went from top of the world, mom, to who are you?
And then
it's a different standard, right?
Yeah, it's so much more pressure too because it's also more expensive to compete because, again, you're probably going to have to go overseas. The entry fees are actually a lot more expensive too, which we were just looking at. I mean, even when I did the Australia Pro for bikini at the Worlds, it was $400 entry fee. $400, like, for one showing. It's not cheap. And then also, a lot of the pro shows now, they don't have the production value to make that entry fee seem worth it. I don't know, like for me, it's like, I mean, shout out to the swords, shout out to those. We love a good sword. Like you don't see that as often anymore. Like even at the pro shows, like they'll get their big tiara, but like that's about it. You don't get the weight belts anymore. Like that used to be a big thing. You got the weight belt, you got to hold it up. You get the sword, you get the hammer. Now that's not really a thing. Like
no. There's a few standout shows. Like, I mean, if you go from the pro league perspective, there's the signature shows, which traditionally have been obviously the Arnold, the Olympia, New York Pro, now arguably Pittsburgh Pro, and a few other ones around where they have really good production values. But you're not seeing that right across the board because, as I said, it's kind of like we talked about last week or the other week when we were talking about natural shows being tacked on as a division of within a show. And you're seeing that happen in with the pros. The pros, it's another class within an amateur show. Same stage, same judges, same
I think,
everything.
to be honest, the overall for the overall class and the open title and everything, I think that often actually is treated better than a lot of the pro shows. Like, and this is nothing against ICN, but even at the ICN show last year, when I got my pro card, that was actually a better show experience for me in terms of the hype and I guess just the vibes of how the show was run. Than doing the pro show. I still felt like an amateur doing the pro show. And again, that's what I said about the US as well. Same thing. They cut the routines short. They just got on stage, got off. There's no extra production value to it anymore, being a pro. So it's almost like once you get your pro card, at anything that's not considered a top tier pro show is still an amateur show. It's just that the actual amateurs are not allowed to compete in it. That's kind of where we're at this point.
Yeah. So I guess a couple key questions really is like, should every athlete accept a pro card immediately? Like nowadays, it's kind of like you win your pro card, and there's generally going to be some for like ICN does this, or all the federations do it to some extent. You win your pro card, and you're expected to either make your pro debut later on that evening if there's a pro part, or in say New Zealand's case, it's like, okay, well, you need to now go and do the pro bikini at the TOC because you're now a New Zealand pro. Should they be accepting it, or should they say, okay, well, I'm a pro, but I'm not going to compete for a while because or is there a value in remaining as an amateur longer? Is being a top amateur, is it less successful than being a pro? Like if you were a world champion and you win the world champion multiple times, is that less successful than placing 16th, which means nowhere, in a pro show? Would you rather be a world champion or somebody who won a pro card?
I guess it just becomes around that, like, expectation, I guess, of the decision of whether to take the pro card or not. Because, like, once you win that overall title, you do have a decision to make. And again, it's kind of hard to, if you say no, come back the following year. Then what? Are you gonna win that title again, and now everyone's mad at you because nobody gets a pro card? So it gets a little bit of a tricky situation there if you want to stay. Or some people do the fun, it's not as common anymore, but it's the federation hopping of the collect them all pro cards.
Yeah. Let me just big, concertina of pro cards for different
like get out the card collection book like Pokemon.
Yeah. I mean, again, is this coming, going back to every show that's been done around New Zealand and Australia in particular over this year. I mean, like, arguably, a lot of athletes in New Zealand won't show up unless it's a pro qualifier. And that's frequently the argument.
Which is really
like,
funny because it's hilarious, I find, because a lot of those athletes, the same ones who don't want to come if it's not a pro qualifier, are still not gunning for the pro card.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so why does it make a difference?
Yeah. It's
cheaper entry fee.
Honestly, I would rather be. Let's take Joe Olberg as classic, the late Joe Olberg. He was a 7-time Mr. New Zealand. The last person I know that defended the Mr. New Zealand title was Daniel Hibbs, and that was quite a while ago. I remember guys like Warren Thin. This is going way back. I think he was a 5-6-time Mr. New Zealand overall champion. But this was back in the days before you did not get a pro card by winning the overall title in New Zealand. It was like, no, you had to go to world. So is being a top amateur now, is that less successful? Or being, I don't know, when did the prestige and the glamour go out of winning your class and then winning the overall in your regional and then progressing up to winning your class at nationals? Or winning the overall at nationals. When did the prestige go out of that? And who's
I'm going to say it's when coaches started promoting this many pro card wins, or I am a pro, listen to me. I'm going to say that's when it was. Because, other than that, why wouldn't you try to get a regional title? Other than that. But these days, even we recommend if you're aiming for nationals, don't gun for the regional title.
Yeah.
And we will say that to athletes too.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, we do contribute to the problem, Chris.
Damn it. It's not my fault. Fuck to be blamed. I don't know. It's what does success look like? What should success look like? What I'm asking everybody is, what do you actually want from bodybuilding?
One thing I find really interesting is when people want that pro title and they will strategically do smaller shows or like shows that it's easier to win that title. And I'm like, don't you want to earn it? Like, don't you want to deserve it? Because even when I signed up with you for coaching, Chris, I remember we had that question about, do I want to get a pro card? And I said, like, I want to look like I should have a pro card.
Yeah. Which was one of the reasons when you...
If I get it, I get it.
Qualified, we were like, no, because when you got the PQ and you had the ability to take it because of where you placed in the pro show, and you rightfully said, but I didn't even have to say, I just sat there and went, I already know what I was going to say, but you rightfully said, no, I want to win it, and I want to have deserved it, and you did. You went out and you did it, but I
forget. I am one of those people that turned down a pro card at one point, but it wasn't because I won. I didn't win the overall title though for it, so I wanted to win the overall title for it.
Yeah.
It's like, overseas when they come third in their show and they get a pro card, I'm like,
third in their class, and you're like, win overall. So again, if we were to line up across all the federations in New Zealand and Australia, what do you actually want from bodybuilding? Outside of that one or two a year who have that X factor, that top 1%, right? How many of them are going to say, I want to go to the Olympia?
Maybe we need to do a survey.
Yeah. It's like, it'd be interesting, like literally from first timers through to open, like, what do you want out of bodybuilding? And I think, as you said, through their competitive career, it will obviously change. I mean, there's a lot of people who initially do it because they're looking for confidence, they want to lose some weight. That's obviously pretty common. But when does it go from, I want to win my class? Like the number of people who say, I just want to do novice because they don't want to do open because they're scared. And it's like, trust me, novice is more competitive.
Yeah, I find that so funny. Like, just enter open. If you, like, see where you stack. That was always my thing. When I always just wanted to see where I stacked. And then, but people, for some reason, get really scared. I don't know. Maybe that's just because I also don't tie myself too much to my body image.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me.
People, what really is the answer? And like the reality is, whether it's community or whether it's health and fitness, probably the wrong sport for that, but we talked about, winning your class, winning the overall, winning a regional overall, go to nationals, winning your class at nationals, then winning your overall at nationals, and then pro card. It was like there was a process, right? Now it's like, I just want my pro card. It's like, well, if you don't win your pro card, you're never competing again.
But yeah, that's the other thing about once you get your pro card, there's not really a process anymore. After that, it's just now you have to win a pro show. There is in the IFBB like different hierarchies of pro shows. I think other federations don't have that as much just because there's not as many pros and as many pro shows.
Yeah. They don't have the depth of the pro.
Yeah. So they definitely do have like certain pro shows that are worth more to win. But outside of those, 5 shows maybe in the year, like the rest of them are just, they're all the same kind of level. So after that, you don't have that hierarchy anymore of next little step up, next little step up. Like, I'm going to win novice, I'm going to win open, I'm going to win overall. Whereas as soon as you get your pro card, now it's like, okay, now I just have to win the pro show. Great.
Which one? Where am I going? I mean, I guess if it comes down to coaches, how should coaches coach towards the individual athlete's goals? I mean, we constantly hear about these coaches who have their superstars and all that, and they are focusing, they might have a massive team of people, a couple of hundred athletes, but the only ones that we hear about are either A, the ones that are pushing for that pro status, or B, the ones that are pros. And then they're the ones that like, look at my athlete, look at my athlete. So as coaches, are we again putting that emphasis on the pro level physique? And are we doing it because it's good for the athlete? Or are we doing it because it's good for business?
Good for business. We're all about what is it called? Not consumerism. What's the word I'm thinking of, Chris? I've lost it.
I was going to go with consumerism.
Okay, maybe it is consumerism.
Also, instant gratification.
It's all about business and making money around here.
Mm-hmm. But, I mean, not everyone's goal when they hire a coach is to become a pro. And it shouldn't be. And if the coaches are if they're only caring about who's going to be a pro, it is. I mean, I've got 50 odd athletes that I coach. Out of those 50, there's probably 5 that I think could potentially win a pro card. And I personally make a point not to promote either of those people more aggressively than anybody else on the team, whether that's somebody who's got a weight loss goal or somebody who really is capable of doing some damage at that next level. I don't know. I think, that's why I hate it when somebody's like, X number of pro cards, X number of this, X number of that. And it's like, most coaches that are professional coaches that do this for a living, they don't coach that many pros.
Okay,
That's
marketing.
the only ones we hear about. Yeah.
Okay, it comes down to marketing. You want to, you promote, they all do, if it's about money, that you're going to do the most impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the unfortunate way that bodybuilding is. It's a very shallow industry.
Yeah, and are we shooting ourselves in the foot, though? I mean,
yes.
With there's such an emphasis on the pro athletes, I mean, the reality of it is, I guess the federations to an extent, they always assume there's more, and I've said it before, there's more meat for the grinder, right? There's always somebody coming in from underneath. But the reality of it, every show that you do, there's very few of those people who actually want to be pros. And so should the emphasis be on making the experience better for the amateurs? That's why I love when you have recently the ICN Worlds, where there was a team from New Zealand went, and that was kind of cool. I know Tony's going to do that with the naturals. The Pittsburgh Pro is going to become the natural world amateur champs, and he's talking about taking a team over there. And I mean, it sounds corny, but everybody gets a matching sweatsuit and they get all the paraphernalia.
Everyone wants a matching sweatsuit. Come on.
We all, except for New Zealand, because it's always the same. We just get black
and white. But I mean, I missed that from when I was swimming, because we always did that. You'd travel as a team, you'd stay as a team. But yeah, in bodybuilding, we don't tend to have that, especially now. I think there was a point where it was a thing, and I think that was because that's when all the big sponsorships were a thing, and it was a thing to go travel the world with your sponsorship. You get paid for to go to these things. Now that social media exists, they don't need to do that anymore. So now it's everyone out for themselves.
Yeah.
Which is really sad. I think that's really sad. I think the worlds that I did in Australia with ICN that was really cool, because we went as a team, we stayed together, and we had a bus that took us to and from the venue, and that was really cool. But yeah, it's just not that much of a thing these days, because you don't make money out of it.
Kind of like what we try and do with our team, right? It's like,
yeah.
When we've got sufficient numbers that are doing one show, we try to make it a team experience. So through makeup and tanning and staying at the venue and photographers and all that sort of stuff, because most of the people that are on the team, they're not going to be pro, and that's not their goal. They just want to be the best that they can be. So, I mean, how do we shift? I mean, the reality of it is, okay, let's take some of these other federations. I don't know, OCB, IC, NAB, even NPC, naturals, right? If there's not a pro progression, would people stop competing in those federations? Everybody stop competing?
Not everybody, but I do think a large proportion. And I think that's what we see with some of the smaller federations in New Zealand, because there's no pro shows for those federations, and there's not that many pro cards, if any, on offer. Everyone nobody wants to do I guess it's hard to say it without insulting anyone, but no one wants to do the less prestigious shows. Usually, you want to go where the prestige is, generally, especially if you have a competitive mindset. You want to do well, you want to win. You don't want to do that easily. Usually, some people do, but so it does become, if there's no pro league, people stop going there.
Yeah,
regardless of if their goal is to go pro or not, because the competition isn't there.
So you think, okay, well, how did we? Australia is probably a good example, right? They haven't done a pro show in the IFBB. They haven't done a pro show in a long time. And the argument is, win a pro card, go overseas and do what you want with it. Go and compete with the big dogs. New Zealand is an exception to the rule. Mo puts on a lot of pro shows, and I personally don't think the pros in New Zealand are thankful enough for that. I basically, they need to be a little bit more grateful. There's kind of this level of expectation that, oh, you should put on a pro show. And it's like, I've judged pro shows in New Zealand. Yeah, no one is expensive, but I can tell you that pro shows in they've done pro shows in New Zealand where I've judged, and the New Zealand pros haven't even showed up in shape.
I'm going to be honest, I think the difference between us and Australia on that, because Australia obviously doesn't have a lot of pro shows, is the production value.
Yeah.
The
emphasis is on the amateurs.
People want to do the shows in Australia because they have amazing productions, they have the videographers, they have the lighting, they make a big thing about it. They make you feel special being on stage. In New Zealand, we don't have that.
Well, all right. Well, here's a challenge to the promoters in New Zealand. What is stopping them stepping their game up and making it? Oh, we're going to get. I guarantee you by 5:05 a.m. next Monday. I know there's a message coming on this part. How, if that's right, if Australia's doing that, making it about the amateurs, have they got it right by saying yes, people are going to win pro cards, but the show is not about who wins the pro card. The show is about that 99.9% of other athletes that have paid their money, have gone through their 20 weeks of prep, have put on the spray tan and the sparkle bikinis, and they've invested time and money into stage presentation, into music, into lighting, let's be real, Tony puts on a good frickin' show.
I would say they are gold standard, like next to Japan for show production.
Yeah. And it's a better job than the Americans do.
Percent.
To be fair,
no one wants to put in 4 months of dieting and then all that thousands of dollars, and then you're just a number on stage, get on, get off, you're herded like cattle. Like,
and
why would you want to do that?
Is a shiny medal on a stage in some school hall somewhere
and then you're told to bugger off afterwards because you need to make room for the next class. Like, nobody wants to do that.
No. So and
that's what.
Okay, obviously Australia is bigger than New Zealand, right? There is more competitors, and the reality is they don't do that many more shows. There are a lot of shows. ICN does a truckload, NAB does a truckload. IFBB, Pro League or NPC Worldwide probably does less than most of those guys, but the focus is on the production. So if a federation, there's a bit of a challenge, if a federation puts that effort into the production, and I will give a little shout out to Brenda and Andy, their production value they do a good job. Them and, again, Palmerston North must be a thing, them and Shane, their shows, the production value.
Like, everyone wants to do Tournament of Champions. Like, if it works for people, they will choose that show over any other show in New Zealand. If they're able to get to it and if the timing works. They will choose that show over any other show in New Zealand. Hands down, no questions asked.
So, if these promoters invest more money into the amateurs, yes, you're always going to have those ones that are pushing for the pros. How do we shift that focus from the athlete winning a pro card and us as, fans of the sport? How do we put that emphasis on the promoters to say, and I think it comes down to us as fans, we're not going to come and watch your shows, or we're not going to compete in your shows unless you step up your game. And I think as long as the emphasis is being put on the pro as opposed to the athlete, how do we change that? How do we shift that mentality to more in line with the Asian model, more in line with the Australian model, where it is about the experience, it is about the show? And how do we stop that? It's about winning a pro card.
Well, see, the issue there, Chris, is that comes down to ego. That comes down to bragging rights. The promoter, if they...
She went there.
I'm going to be honest here.
Salty today. Ladies and gentlemen, Rachel Mead, take it away. I'm going to leave the building before.
Okay, yeah, this is fully on me because this is my opinion. If you are promoting only the pro card and that is the only thing that is important to you, then you are going for bragging rights most likely. The chances are extremely high. You just want the bragging rights of saying, pro card, this is a pro. Prestige, right here. Whereas putting the emphasis back onto all of the amateurs, regardless of their level, even the first timers and the beginners, they obviously aren't going to be as marketable at that point. They don't necessarily look quite as good as the person who won their pro card. Obviously, they won their pro card. They're going to look better. So that requires caring about people who aren't winning.
Keep going.
Which, again,
I'm
it's
just
ego.
getting my popcorn out now.
It's ego. It's, do you care about the athletes who are just beginning or not? That's what it comes down to. If you don't care about the athletes who are just beginning and they're not necessarily looking elite, if you don't care about them because you don't think they deserve to be there that much, because let's be honest, in the bodybuilding world, we get a lot of comments on athletes who are like, well, what are you doing on stage? We've talked about it before. And if you don't care about those athletes at all in any way, shape, or form, you're obviously not going to put on a good production for them. You are only going to emphasize the ones that are winning, which feeds into the issue we have. And then if you actually care about the athletes and everyone, regardless of their ability, having a good experience, then you are going to have an overall better show production value.
Definitely not going to argue that point because I 100% agree.
But bodybuilders tend to have egos, let's be honest.
Yeah, that's true. Especially the top echelon. But people out there will argue that we can't do what Australia does because Australia has bigger numbers.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the numbers that are on stage in the Australian shows, there are actually not that many more than what is in New Zealand on per show basis. So if they can do the production value that creates an environment that people want to compete there, they want to step on that show, knowing full well that 99 out of 100 of those people there know full well they're not there to win a pro card. Why can't we do it here?
Ego.
So it's not money, which is what they'll say.
I mean, it does partially come down to money because, like, for example, like the things like the videography and the live streams and stuff, that is expensive. That comes down to money, yes. Or like if you want a smoke machine, that does cost money. But
that's investment, though, right?
Yeah, but I mean, like, there is little things that can easily be done, like time on stage, organization, literally just being kind to the athletes, not treating them...
Come on, you're asking too much, Rachel. Jesus.
Not treating them like cattle being herded. Those little things right there, like, those are free. They do not cost anything but just a little bit of time. And not even that much time. Like, all you have to do is not yell at them. Like, it's really not that hard. I've been yelled at backstage before. Wasn't even doing anything. We were just sitting backstage. We'd finished competing at that point and we got yelled at for being too small.
So, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm not here to be a pro. So, where does one, should it change? Like, should the emphasis be, like, should there really be a delineation between the amateur and the pro, right? Should it be the same promoters? Should it be the same judges? Should the organizations be leading this and saying, like, back in the day, you won your amateur, you went from being an amateur and you upgraded, you moved up the ranks into pro. Who's responsible for driving this? Is it us as fans of the sport? Us as professional coaches? Is it the federation's responsibility? Is it the promoter's responsibility? Who's going to lead that to say, enough's enough? If you're a pro, good on you. That's the progression. When should we say, and let's face facts, there are more amateurs than there are pros, and if there weren't amateurs, there would be no shows. How do we shift the emphasis away from that pro card status, regardless of the federation? Whose responsibility is it for driving it, and are they going to?
Probably not. Well, because, like, it comes down to, again, the way the athletes are treated on stage. When certain categories, every single show rushed and they are cut short and speeches are cut off, or they're just basically told to get out, or even I've had one time where halfway through a division, I went on for novice, we got kicked out backstage, and then the boys went on, and then they brought us back an hour later. And so when that stuff is kind of constantly happening, you are telling the athletes they are not important and that they are not a priority. You are only important if you reach this level. And it's just the subconscious subliminal messaging.
I mean, I do know even at the pro level, I've known some pros from New Zealand who've gone to compete overseas, and they've showed up and travelled around doing their tours or whatever, and they've gone to prejudging, and then they've been told, okay, come back for finals, which has been, like, say, 12 hours later. And then they come back, and then the marshal backstage has literally said, we're only taking the top 5. So weirdly enough, the pros get treated pretty poorly.
I think that's a relatively new thing, though. I feel like that... No? I feel like that.
Outside of the big shows, like if you were talking about, like, let's say, for example, I don't know. I know it happened at a pro show in Dallas. So this athlete had traveled down from New York, he'd competed in New York, traveled down to Dallas to compete, and then had, done all this water cutting, done everything like this to get ready for, peak, and went on, and then literally they were told, come back, and they were, hold your peak, you got to come back for finals. It was really a mess. And then literally told as they were lining up backstage, and not politely, might say, but literally said, athletes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, line up, everybody else go home. And it's like,
when was that though? Would you say that it was like that?
2019.
I was going to say pre-2020.
Yeah, about then.
Yeah.
But
okay.
I mean, it's they're not treated.
But yeah, I'm going to be honest. I think part of the reason we don't know about that is a lot of the pro athletes are too scared to speak out.
God, yes, I'm going to do. Yeah. Until they retire, and then they suddenly get brave.
Yes, 100%.
Says me.
Says us. Yeah.
I'm like, what are you going to do? I don't care anymore.
Yeah, no. People are too scared to speak out, and that's why you don't necessarily know. I genuinely thought that the pros were treated better. That gives me that I lost a lot of faith in the pro division in certain federations just then.
And it's unfortunate, but I guess and we could go on about this for ages, but to sort of wrap it up, I think to leave with some final thoughts, it's like, because I think this conversation it's bigger than pro cards, right? It's about how we've started measuring success. Maybe the biggest mistake that we've made as a sport isn't creating professional athletes. It's creating the idea that everything else is somehow second best. Because if that's true, we've unintentionally told thousands of amateur athletes that unless they become pro, their bodybuilding journey wasn't good enough.
Honestly, I think
don't believe that for a second.
Even at the pro level, unless you win, you're second rate.
Yeah. Look,
that's the culture.
I've judged some incredible amateur athletes in my time. I've coached some incredible amateur athletes. Some have gone on to become professionals. Some never wanted to. And I can honestly say that I've met just as many fulfilled amateur athletes as I have professional ones, maybe more. And the reality is amateur competitors, they vastly outnumber professionals. They're the foundation of the sport. The people filling the local shows. They're the ones supporting the promoters. They're building the gym communities. They're the ones introducing new people to bodybuilding and keeping the sport alive. Because without amateur athletes, there is no professional bodybuilding. Now, don't get me wrong. If your dream is to stand on the Olympia stage, go for it. And the NPC and the IFBB Pro League have built an incredible pathway to make that possible. And, they are constantly pushing. Road to the Olympia. The only way to the Olympia is through the NPC, through the IFBB.
Hashtag road to pro.
Hashtag road to pro. If that's your dream, chase it. But it's a pathway. It's not everybody's pathway. Not every athlete wants to become a professional. Not every athlete wants to travel internationally. Not every athlete wants to become the very best in the world. And they shouldn't have to. Maybe instead of asking every competitor, when are you going to become pro, we should start asking them, what do you want from bodybuilding? Because the question that actually matters is, what do you want? It's, if your dream is a pro card, fantastic, chase it. Put your life into it. If your dream is to become the best amateur in the country, chase that. If your dream is simply to be a healthier, stronger, and more confident version of yourself, then let's celebrate that just as loudly. Because bodybuilding has given people far more than pro cards. It's given people confidence. It's given discipline, purpose, friendships, resilience, community. For most competitors, those things will have a far greater impact on their lives than a professional title or a fancy laminated card. So maybe the question is, didn't you become pro? Maybe it really is, did bodybuilding give you what you came looking for? Because if it did, great. That's what you should be aiming for. And maybe that's where we should see the sport evolve. Celebrate the professionals, of course. Celebrate the athletes chasing those big prestigious titles, absolutely. But let's also celebrate the amateur who competed for 10 years because they simply love competing. Celebrate the parent who transformed the life of their kids by stepping on stage and showing what can be done. Celebrate every athlete who never becomes a professional but inspires 20 other people to believe that they can. Because bodybuilding needs great professionals. And a professional doesn't just mean a title. A professional is how you carry yourself. It's how you deal with the people that look up to you. We also need great amateurs. And great amateurs can be professionals without the title.
I think as a community, bodybuilding community, we need to stop putting emphasis on if you didn't win, you lost. because I think that's the biggest issue we have. Because even when our pros are competing overseas, or even actually any time, like actually every sport, whenever you do a competition, the first question people ask is, did you win? I mean, majority of the time, the answer is going to be no. Only one person can win. And I used to get really frustrated with that when I was swimming, to be honest, because that pissed me off because there's like 50 people there. So yeah, I think, moving the emphasis from did you win to just how did you do? Did you achieve your goal? Was it what you wanted?
I think it's time we stop looking at amateurs as being the second tier of the sport. The reality of it is they're its foundation. And maybe it's time we started celebrating them with exactly the same enthusiasm, because success isn't something that the industry of bodybuilding gets to define. It's something that every athlete should define for themselves.
100%.
And that's about as deep as I'm getting this week, because...
Mic drop.
I don't know. Yep. It's time. Amateurs, you guys rock. There is no sport without you. If anybody tells you you're not good enough, almost hit a swear word. Yep. Don't be a dick! We'll go back to that. Anyway, anything in closing there today, Rachel?
No, I think that was my closing. Just less emphasis on did you win, because, if you come second, people are like, oh no, are you okay? Second is great.
And what defines a win for you? What defines a win for you? Is it the colour of the medal? Is it the overall title? Is it the fancy pro card? Or is it that you are the best version of you?
Exactly, yeah. Define success differently. Stop placing the emphasis on you must win everything, because chances are you won't. Even pros do not win. Most of the time they don't win, like we've said.
Most pros don't actually win.
Yeah. So just remember, it's not all about winning. It's not all about getting your pro card. It's about improving yourself, being the best version of you.
Yeah, because most of you who enter the sport will never win a pro card. And you never should be chasing it.
Ouch. Brutal honesty from Chris Bold, people.
Yep, I think we probably got ourselves in trouble with enough people this week. So anyway, next up we have got first for us, we've got down in Christchurch, we've got the ICN South Island Champs, which I always enjoy, because that is probably, I would say, you can pretty much say the South Island puts on some of the best shows across all the federations. Yeah. It's like people there's something in the water. I don't know what
they do pretty well down there.
Yeah, they do pretty well down there. So obviously we'll be covering that one. We'll look forward to being down there. But again, get out there, support your amateurs, guys. Without these regional shows, there are no pro cards. Because you don't do a regional, you don't go to nationals. So buy your ticket, get out there, make some noise.
Save up your money for said tickets, because we've got, 7 shows in 8 weeks coming up? That's $400 or $500 worth of tickets if you go to every show. Although you won't, because they are kind of spread across the country. But save up your money so that you can go watch said shows, because, again, people want to see your sport. It's also good for learning. You can learn what the judges look for.
Yeah.
And just, generally support and have a good time, and just the smell of tan is motivating.
For some of us. But remember, amateurs, you guys are the sport. Without you, there is no pro divisions across any of the federations. So enjoy your journey. And get out there, support the federations, whichever one you're in. Support the athletes that are training, whatever level they're at. And enjoy the process. And celebrate your wins, sure. But remember, there's always another show. So that's enough ramblings from us. If you have enjoyed today's completely off topic and dropping Rachel in the deep end this week, which is becoming a habit, we're alternating now. Next week it's Rachel's turn to surprise me, and we go, crap. Please make sure you like and subscribe and follow us on YouTube and Spotify. And if you've got any suggestions of people you would like us to talk to and interview, or subjects you want us to cover, it's really interesting for us running into people around the country saying they enjoy the complete crap that we make up and find it very educational. Drop us a like. We are open to suggestion and constructive criticism. We will see you guys all next week, bright and early for your cardio, and have a great week.
Enjoy.